You are listening to Living with ADHD and CPTSD, available on Apple, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcast. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Living with ADHD and CPTSD. Today I'm going to talk about ADHD and medication. The reason that I'm doing this is because I have a lot of experience in the last 6 months and then again over a year ago with medication, and I have noticed there is a lot of benefit to it and how it really helps when it comes to allowing your mind to properly focus on what is happening. It improves your concentration. It definitely improves your focus. It also improves a lot of other symptoms that you may have. And I realize that there's a lot of people out there who don't necessarily have access to the ADHD medication like some of us do. Like I know in the United Kingdom, and I've got a lot of understanding and knowledge because I've talked to many people who are from the UK, that getting medication is not as easy due to the way that their healthcare is set up. They have a national health service, and society over there when it comes to things like mental health is a lot less open-minded when it comes to medication and getting proper support for it than like here in Canada. Where I live in Alberta, Canada, which is the second furthest western province in the country, our Alberta healthcare services is more relaxed when it comes to this. Now, I'm not saying that our mental health coverage and our mental health care is the best, that it's the easiest and is affordable, but it is definitely not a hard thing to get to and get help with if you're willing to wait for a little bit of time. Now, when I first discovered, I had some idea that I had ADHD a while ago. It wasn't like it was just brand new and I just all of a sudden appeared in my mind and with other people. The first person who mentioned to me that I might have ADHD was an ex-girlfriend of mine back in the early 2000s, early mid 2000s. She had suggested to me that I may have a form of ADHD. It might not be like extreme, but it is there. And when I discussed it with a friend of mine who I've known for a very long time and happens to be a psychologist herself, she also thought that I had to a degree ADHD. So I never really at that point seriously took any steps towards finding out. And it wasn't until the relationship that I'm in now where, and of course seeing a therapist for my CPTSD, that it got to the point where I really took it seriously. And my therapist told me that I would be able to get some samples of ADHD medication and could try it and see how it would affect my ability to focus and concentration and other see how it reduced the other symptoms. And so what I did is I went to my I didn't have a doctor at the time because the current doctor that I had been seeing for the majority of my life had to retire due to some personal reasons and sold his practice. And because he sold it, the person who now has that practice decided to move it to the city. At the time, I was living in Spruce Grove, which is 20 minutes or so west of where I'm living now. And it just didn't... It was kind of a ridiculous situation. And I wanted to find a doctor who was more accessible. And so I went to this clinic in Spruce Grove, and the problem was, and I didn't know at the time, and you're kind of at the mercy of the clinic when it comes to who you get for a doctor. And the doctor that I saw was an African American. I can't remember exactly where. I think he was from South Africa. And the worst part of this wasn't the course that he's from South Africa, and that his accent was, a little different than what I'm used to. It's just that he had a speech impediment. So you can imagine telling the doctor information and then having a hell of a time trying to understand what he's saying to you. It was very, very difficult. And I just remember when I would go see him that I had no idea half the time what he was telling me, which was frustrating and kind of scary because I didn't know. Like, I remember trying to get a referral from him to get assessed for ADHD. And based on what I thought I heard, that he had done it. Like, he had submitted a referral request. And so I relied on him and I waited. But in the meantime, I was surprised to some degree at how easy it was to get ADHD, like the medication. He didn't really ask a lot of questions. Like, he wasn't thorough. He didn't investigate. He didn't do a lot of checking. For all he knew, I could have been trying to do something illegal, or, I was using it for school work, which of course I was not, but he didn't really check. And it was kind of, I was not expecting that. I did have to go back to see him to get my refills. It's not like I had refills that were just automatic. So there was that. But the fact that he didn't start me off when I got the medication. He did start me off on a small amount. He put me on Vyvanse, and he put me on 20 milligrams to begin. And I remember I was really excited because I thought, let's see how this works. And his explanation to his understanding was that it would take like a week for it to take effect. So I'm like, okay, take the medication, wait a week. And that next morning, I took it at 7:00, and in the morning, of course, and I'm sitting there on my computer doing work, and I noticed suddenly something changed. And I wasn't quite sure at first. I didn't know. Like, I wasn't 100% sure. And I sat there and I'm thinking to myself, whoa, what's going on here, right? Like, I noticed this sudden improvement. Like, I had a lot of changes. There was a lot of improvements on multiple areas. There was improvement on focus. I had better concentration. I had a higher level of confidence. I was making decisions really quick. There wasn't any hesitation. I felt strong. I felt good. Like, it was incredible. Like, I couldn't believe how I was feeling. And so I determined later that afternoon that this medication, despite what he said, actually started working right away. So I thought everything was fine. I, didn't think much beyond that. It's just that a couple days later, I noticed that I was getting this unusual kind of pain in the forehead, like right in the front of my head. And I was like, what the hell, right? It's kind of like a headache. So I'm kind of feeling weird. And as the day went, it was pretty strong. And I just remember going, holy crap, this is kind of an unusual. And I eventually came to the conclusion that because of the front of the brain, which is where ADHD tends to, like most people with ADHD, it affects, that's the area of the brain that doesn't develop the same as a neurotypical, that the area there was working a lot harder than it ever had been in my life. So it was like the first time that area was getting more of a workout. So, I was getting a bigger dopamine hit. The stimulant was doing its job. It's just that it was quite strong. And that wasn't the worst part. I had a feeling that it would have eventually gone away if I had stuck with the same medication. And I had been on it for over a week. And the other symptom that had occurred, I think it was nearly the same time, was that I was feeling really hungry. Like, I would eat a whole meal, and I swear within a half an hour I was super hungry. And I would do this a few times. And I'm just like eating a ton of food and swallowing it down, and I'd feel full, but all of a sudden it was like literally just like that, boom, done. I'm like hungry again. And it's not just hungry. It's like I haven't had food in a day. It was extreme, heavy, big time hunger pains. And it was insane. Like oh my God, like I had never felt anything like that before. It was so intense that I didn't know what was going on. And I'm thinking, this is crazy. I'm going to gain a ton of weight because I'm going to always be hungry. And eventually I went back to the doctor and told him about what was going on. And he got me off of that and put me on a different kind of medication. I don't remember what it was called. I'm sorry, guys. I don't have a lot of memory when it comes to the other medications. I think he put me on a couple different ones. I remember the one of them that was an XR or an XL. So it had a longer, slower disperse rate when I swallowed it instead of it being immediate. It's just... nothing really happened. I wasn't getting any effect. It wasn't working as well. And then it got to the point, I remember in August of last year, the medication wasn't doing anything. My brain and my system was so used to the medication, and this was the part that was really, foretelling, is I was forgetting to take it. I wouldn't take it in the morning. And I actually remember it was a couple days in a row that I didn't take it. And I had no change. There was literally no difference at all in my brain. There wasn't any increase in focus. There wasn't any decrease in focus. I didn't have any side effects, any withdrawal symptoms, nothing. It was like I was taking a sugar pill or I was taking something that was just a fake pill. That's what it was like. There was no effect whatsoever from the medication. And it just got to the point where at the beginning of September, I just stopped. It wasn't doing anything. I wasn't getting any effect from it. And then I started to realize that the doctor that I had seen had not submitted any referral. And the last time I went to see him, he told me that I should look at other ways to help with the ADHD. He had his reasoning for not giving me any more medication or changing was that it doesn't matter how much you do, you're going to always have an increase, and it could become harmful. And at this point, I was really just like, whatever, buddy, I don't have a clue what you're saying. I can't understand you. You're just giving me the runaround. He was basically wanting me to do all the other things: exercise, diet, proper sleep, meditation, all these things that, that I could do. I was well aware. This isn't something that was new to me. I knew that there were other things that I could do. Like I could do the diet, which I have been for a while. I could exercise. I could get sleep. I could do meditation. There were all these other areas that I could focus on, but he didn't want to give me any more medication. So I had basically said, all right, that's it. This guy is a joke. I'm not going to bother seeing him anymore. And I just kind of did other things. Like I tried to focus on other areas. And it was at that time when other things in my life were starting to become more important. I was having some relationship struggles. The autism thing was really starting to come into play more. I was really dealing with my CPTSD a lot more. And I finally just said in December, I said, okay, enough is enough. I said to my girlfriend, I need to go see another doctor. I need to get back on this ADHD medication. I need to do this properly, because things obviously are are going crazy. I'm out of my mind. I'm having all sorts of problems with ADHD and other things. And I was kind of hoping that it would take care of my anxiety, because I had been informed that ADHD medication could help reduce signs of anxious feelings. So we found, it just happened to be a doctor down the street from where I live, which was extremely beneficial and so much easier to deal with. And I got an appointment. After the assessment, like I had a physical that they had to do before I could talk to him about the medication. Had that done. Went a couple weeks later, and this is where I knew things were different. It was amazing, the difference between him and this other doctor that I had seen before. When I asked him that I'm certain that I have ADHD and that I want to get an assessment because there's all these symptoms, I laid them all out, talked to him about my trauma, talked to him about the autism. He asked me a bunch of questions. Like, he was thorough. He wanted to be sure. He asked me about, like, after I told him about the trauma and everything, he asked me like history questions about the family. He said that he was concerned that there's possibility that there could be other things, like maybe there's general anxiety disorder, maybe there might be bipolar type 2. And so he didn't want to immediately give me the medication. He wanted to do a referral for an ADHD assessment. And I'm like, okay. So I agreed with that. And it started to make me think, right? Like, ever since then, I had kind of other thoughts in my head. I was starting to look at the options, at alternative problems that may be occurring in my mind, and, wondering about it. And then, like a week later, he sent me an assessment form, and it had a bunch of questions, ADHD questions, anxiety questions, questions that were for bipolar type 2, and I filled it out. And I remember, like, all the questions except for maybe a couple, for the ADHD I filled out, and I had like a 2, and there was a couple that was a 1, and the numbers were anything over a certain number explained the likelihood that you had ADHD. So my number was 16 out of 20. And that meant that it was a high likelihood that I had ADHD. And the other things, the anxiety was pretty high too, but then the other one for bipolar was not. So he sent it in, and I got a referral. I got a call, like, I think it was like 3 weeks later after, I think it was early February, I got a phone call from Alberta Health Services, and they gave me an appointment for April 19th, just recently, to get an assessment done with a psychiatrist. Now, regards to the medication, on December 24th, I went to see the doctor, and he agreed to start me on 10 milligrams of Vyvanse, the stuff that I had been on under a year earlier, and said that after a month, come back and see me, and then we'll see how it is, and go from there. So I started taking it, and 2.5 weeks into the medication, I started to notice the symptoms, like the changes, the effects of the medication. I didn't have the pain in the forehead. For the first 3 or 4, I think it was 4 or 5 days, I did have the hunger, but my doctor thought there was maybe something else going on in my stomach that was causing it, because the medication is not supposed to make you feel more hungry. It's supposed to actually reduce your hunger. Like, it's supposed to make you feel less hungry, as they use it for weight loss, which of course I really didn't need at the time. And so I went in and I told them about it, and I said, I'm not really feeling any side effects. I need to go higher because it's not working as well. So every so often I got higher and higher. And then in May, at the beginning of April, I got up to 50 milligrams, and it was working. It's actually doing its job. And I remember the psychiatrists had diagnosed me and assessed me and declared that I was inattentive ADHD, and said that I could do anxiety. Like, if I still felt like anxiety was a problem, that I could get onto a medication for that as well. And I didn't at first because I wanted to see. And after, like, in an episode that I had created previously, after a discussion with a relative, the whole thought of the anxiety being a major point in my life really stood out. And it had been for a while. Like, I had been thinking about the anxiety part of my behavior, and it was only just till then when it finally came up and said, okay, this I got to take care of. Enough is enough. So I went back to my doctor. He was doing a consultation regarding the ADHD assessment, and we got on to a medication for the anxiety. It's a SSRI, escitalopram. He started me, of course, at 5 for the first 5 days, and then to 10. And it's just been over 3 weeks now, and it definitely has helped. The one thing which is amazing is that the anxiety medication has made the ADHD medication even more effective. Because of the reduction of my anxiety, I have felt even more focus and more concentration, and my symptoms are even less than they were just with the medication, the ADHD medication on its own. It's incredible. I finally, of course, know where I'm going. I know what I got to do. I have an appointment later on this month to get assessed regarding the anxiety medication. I'm going to recommend and suggest that we increase it to a higher amount. I don't know if they're going to go to 15 or 20. I'm not sure how it works with them, but I think I'm on the right path. Everything seems to work. If you suffer from ADHD and you're not sure about medication, you're hesitating to take it, I'm going to tell you from a personal opinion and from my experiences of the medication, I recommend that you at least try. Find a doctor. If you can, if you're a psychiatrist, or if you are able to get the medication and you have the assessment, if you're not sure about it, I definitely recommend doing it. Find someone who's willing to start you off at a low amount. Be patient with it. It's not going to be, if you're doing it at the right amount and you're doing it properly, like I did the second time around, it's not going to be an immediate sudden boom. Oh my God, I can focus, right? It's not going to be that way. It takes time. It took 2.5 weeks for me to get the changes to occur. So I suggest and I recommend giving it a shot. There's a good chance that they're going to, depending on where you are, they may prescribe Vyvanse. I think it's probably one of the better medications out there for ADHD. I really think you should try it. Give it a shot. See what you think. I believe that it is helpful. And if you're suffering from any other disabilities, like if you've got anxiety, if it's heavy on you as far as symptoms and you're noticing it a lot, look at getting an anxiety diagnosis. See if maybe you've got trauma. Maybe there's something that you're not aware of. Maybe you've been suffering from chronic trauma like CPTSD and you're not even aware of it. Maybe you don't even realize that you have it. Think, like, if you can, think about your past. Maybe you can discuss it with your therapist if you're seeing one. But the medication does work. And if you do suffer from anxiety and you're able to get on a medication for anxiety, it could even help you even more. So why not, right? Like, give it a shot. If it doesn't work, like if you've already done it, if you've already tried ADHD medication and it just doesn't work, I understand. I'm not going to make you do anything, of course, because it's your life. You do whatever you feel is best, but I do recommend that you at least give it a try and see what happens, because if you get any benefit out of it, it improves your life. It helps you feel more, more aware, more capable of doing important things, especially if you notice that you're having a lot of difficulties in work or in a relationship because of your ADHD symptoms. There's no way that it can't be beneficial for you. I do recommend giving it a try. And that is another episode of Living with ADHD and CPTSD. Well, I hope you enjoyed this particular episode. If you have any comments or questions or maybe a suggestion for my podcast, there are a number of ways to get hold of me. First, you can email me. It's livingwithadhdandcptsd@gmail.com. You can contact me on Twitter. My handle is @ADHDandCPTSD. You can also get a hold of me on Mastodon, which is a new social media website that is kind of taking over a little bit for Twitter. If you look up Living with ADHD and CPTSD at mastodon.world, then you can find me there, you can follow me, and you can give me a shout and let me know what you think. You can also go to my website. It's www.livingwithadhdandcptsd.ca. And you can also check out my YouTube page. It's at Living with ADHD and CPTSD. If you would like to donate to help my cause for my podcast, you can go to ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/Living with ADHD and CPTSD. You can also go to my Patreon page, Living with ADHD and CPTSD, and become a member, where you get special access to all early episodes, plus merchandise. You can purchase merchandise to support this podcast. So, go to Patreon. All right, everybody. That's it for today. Have a great day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.